All right, we're back for episode 98 of Digital Divination. Fortunately, Ron can't make it today. He's actually hosting a Magic the Gathering draft thing
Thing.
with Luis and a bunch of
Mm,
other people. I saw
fair.
Leo was there and like
Nice.
that. Yeah, we obviously weren't invited. No, we weren't available. I think.
Yeah, it's wait. You said you saw people there.
No,
Weren't you
I
there?
saw online. Online Leo was
Oh,
posting he
okay.
was heading over, and I was like, actually, I just got back from a holiday dinner with some friends. Uh, wife and I went to visit a couple other friends that live just up the road here,
Hmm.
and we just got back and we thought, hey, let's go record something.
Yeah. And I got finished watching a Hallmark Hanukkah movie.
Oh,
Yes, they do these now more frequently,
yeah.
but only like one a year. Even though they have a billion Christmas movies, they're watching. This was a Hanukkah movie, but not only was it just a Hanukkah movie, it was a time loop Hanukkah movie,
Oh, so like a Christmas Carol,
rom
but
com,
Hanukkah? No,
the Groundhog Day, but
Groundhog
Hanukkah.
Day type. Oh, wow,
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
wow.
So she spins a magic dreidel, the hero of our
Yeah,
story. She spins a magic dreidel and has to repeat one of the Nights of Hanukkah over and over again until she gets the Sufengyot to the Hanukkah party, essentially.
wow.
But falls in love, of course.
Yes, yes.
Frustratingly, the person she falls in love with is a nerd who has a some polyhedrals that his Zadie gave him, and he keeps it in a dice protector, which is just a little box. Somehow that was more offensive than any of the the Judaism stuff. Just like all the just so many like old nerd drops. It's like you don't know what you're talking about. Stop talking about Dungeons and Dragons that
Wow,
way. It's
wow.
not right. You're not right. Yeah, it was a little frustrating and
Interesting.
cringy.
So I'm going to ask you this, Jason, because I just don't know. Are you
Yeah.
Jewish?
No, but my
I,
wife
I
is.
okay. I did not know that at all. Well, happy Hanukkah. I know
Happy
that started
Hanukkah.
already. The
Yes, fourth
Festival of
night.
Lights.
The Festival of
Yes,
Lights, indeed, yeah.
yes, yes. I had
Um,
we're not Jewish,
mhm.
but I had a really good friend in Connecticut when we lived there who lived across the street that was Jewish. He was actually my former professor, an advisor, and became a colleague when I taught at the same university.
Okay.
They were Jewish, and so we actually would celebrate Hanukkah with them. It was kind of a
Mhm.
neat thing to be able to do. So nice.
The whole point of Hanukkah IMO is to have the latkes because, a fried potato, anything
Yes,
is delicious.
very good, very
Yeah.
good. Well, it's interesting that this comes up because this episode will be released on December 14th,
Right.
which is the last episode we have, which will come out before the end of Hanukkah or before the Christmas holiday, because our next one will come out on the 28th. So happy holidays, happy
Happy
Hanukkah,
holidays.
and anything else you celebrate, Jason, because I have no idea what your brothers are in that.
Whatever. I'm not a
Okay.
religious individual, so I celebrate all
Yeah.
the secularness of the season. Let's just say
Yes.
I
Yes.
enjoy Christmas music and Christmas cookies and presents, stuff like that, and I put up a tree and have some lights. And you can see some lights behind me
Nice.
now. But some of those lights, you can't quite see them because they're on the behind me a little bit. Strings of lights in jars are spiders and bats, so they're from Halloween.
Oh.
So
Oh. Okay.
yeah, I think yeah,
And they're still alive in there. I'm surprised they last so long.
yeah, they're still living. It's amazing.
Okay.
But I did get myself a sort of an early present this year,
Oh.
and that is my Visit Galarian World T-shirt that I am currently wearing. For those of you who can see it, you can check it out. Those of you who can't, it is a picture of so it says Visit Galarian World on top, and it's the mascot Tarbafon from the Ports of Call book that
Well,
I love so much.
and why did you decide you needed one of those?
Because I mean, look at this guy. It's an official T-shirt. I had to get him because he's my guy.
Right, because you wrote Galarian
I
World
wrote the
for Portugal.
Galarian World
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
I
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
get a T-shirt.
Yeah,
This
we have
is
a whole
from the.
episode on that for
Yeah,
anybody's
but hold on.
interested. Yeah,
I'm sure that everyone knows.
yeah.
But the fine folks over at Pegasus Publishing print up some fun Paizo branded T-shirts, and they're nice too.
Nice.
They're not
And so
terrible
that's one
shirts.
anybody can buy now.
Anyone can buy this. You can buy a Captain
Wow.
Concierge shirt as well if you
Yeah,
like yourself
nice.
a little Skittermander,
Yeah,
and a couple of I think there's a Warp shirt for your Pathfinder pals,
nice.
um, and another at least one more. I can't remember what's on it.
Well, I'm wearing my festive holiday shirt. I don't
I
have
can see
many of
that.
them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell. It's got Darth Vader and a couple of stormtroopers. And at the very bottom here, I don't know if you can see it now. It says, "I
I
feel your
see.
presence."
Right
I
there,
can
you
feel your
go.
presence. Yeah, so that's my space slash holiday
It's good.
crossover.
I gotta I gotta get me at least another holiday sweater. I have a Mario one,
Mhm.
um, but and then like just one that just says um, "Slay all day" or something like that. But it's SLEIGH, and it's not like themed in any way. It's not like it doesn't have
Yeah,
knives on it or anything. But I need like a space one. I need like a Star Wars one or something like that.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I actually got this our Intrepid Heroes campaign. We did a Christmas picture, the very first or holiday picture, the very first season we ran. We because we were recording in person,
Hmm.
and so I set a camera up and we took a picture of everybody, and everybody wore red or green, and this is the green shirt that I got. Otherwise, I wouldn't have one, because I
Sure. Yeah.
didn't think about.
Yeah.
But we're up to episode 98, and Jason
Getting
and I were
there.
talking about this earlier. We've covered a lot of ground
Hmm.
in all these episodes, and we're not going to recap that now. We'll leave that to the 100th.
Yeah.
Um, but what we thought we would talk about today, however long or briefly this may run, a little bit about our own characters that we've played, and I was thinking maybe like the first role playing character you ever played, and then maybe some of your favorites or more recent ones or things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
It's tricky.
when did you
Yeah.
start playing?
So, like, I remember back, like, I did have like a red box
Yeah, yeah,
D&D thing when I was in high school or middle school or anything like that. But I never really played. I maybe like my a
right.
couple friends of mine, their dad would run games for them, but I never played. I was mainly playing video games, so
Hmm.
I wouldn't say that I really had a character. And I read them and I had the dice and whatever, but I wouldn't say I really had a character until like around 2000, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, and and I've said this a couple times on other podcasts. I think it was like I knew role playing games existed, obviously in college and stuff like that. But I was like, oh no, and I did a lot of acting and improv and stuff. But I knew that like if I get into role playing games, that's it. It's gonna consume my life. I could tell. So I'm just
Yeah,
gonna keep to my acting, maybe play some video games. I was of course right about it because once I started playing, it became my career. So it did consume my entire life. Um, and but the first time I went over to play a game with some people, an old college friend of mine and some of her friends from like the Renaissance Fair, they were playing a vampire game, but not Vampire the Masquerade. They were playing sort of a homebrew vampire system, but everyone's vampires, right? I didn't have a character. I didn't bring a character to that. I just kind of came, and they were like, "Well, I think we can get a character for you to figure this out." Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Timothy here, his character has a little brother, and he's in trouble, and he's been sort of a plot device. You want to play him? I'm like, yeah, I'll play the little brother. So during that time, of course, it was like the first like 15 minutes of that game. The mortal little brother, I was like maybe like 10 or 11. That character was or something like that. Gets injured, mortally injured, to the point where Timothy, has to feed him blood to keep him alive, turn him into a vampire. right?
Wow.
So I turned into a vampire so I could actually have a character in the game, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
the whole thing was like the GM was like, okay, you're there now. You're slowly. I don't forget exactly what it was, but I was like maybe had been shot or something like that. You're bleeding out or whatever. And I come over. Do you drink the vampire blood? And I was like, no, I don't drink the vampire blood. I'll just leave. Thank you very much. Now, and of course, I drink the vampire blood and become a vampire character. I have to be in this game. I have to play this character. So that was basically the first character I played. And it was the whole situation where, like, we were doing vampire stuff, and after a while, like, we played a short campaign, but like by the end, it was like, oh no, I'm going to be 11 for the rest of eternity. This sucks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
We well, so my brother and I have a stepbrother who's 9 months older than me, and we had gotten wasn't the red box, it was like this grayish blue box,
Mm,
and it didn't even come with dice, and we
mm.
got that because other friends were talking about it. We couldn't figure out how to play the game because it had just these little strips of paper, which now I know you were
Right.
supposed to cut up and put into, a
Oh
cup or something, and then
yeah.
you randomly draw, right, to get your numbers.
Wowzers.
But eventually we had some friends that were playing a second edition campaign. I think it was second edition. I remember the books, like the monster manual, all that stuff. I think they
Mm,
were second. And it was probably like 79 ish.
mm,
And so I don't know if the timing's right on this. 'Cause I don't remember if we had those books then or if we got them later.
mhm,
But everybody else had characters, and I was a year younger than them, so they were
mhm.
all a year ahead of me in school. And it was during the summer, and I was going to join their campaign. I had to roll up a character, and so we did you just take the 3 dice and you just roll them for all
Right,
your
right, right. Yeah,
things and to
yeah.
figure out your stats. And so I roll up my stats, and you decide which race you're going to be at the time. And
Mhm,
I remember I had like my strength was a 16. I ended up picking a dwarf. I think it was a dwarf, something that I'm pretty sure it was a dwarf, and I got a +2 to strength, whatever. So, oh, you got 18 strength. Now you get to roll a percentile
alright, yeah, the
to see,
percentile.
right, that back then, right? And so I was okay, whatever. I don't know. No. So I rolled a 99. They said, oh, wow, that's really cool. You're really strong. And so my first character was Thorian, the dwarven fighter, with an 18 over 99 strength, and
Wow.
rock of the party.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so I remember that very vividly because of that whole part there. And the interesting thing for me now is that the GM of that game, which was what we're looking at 40, almost 45 years ago, right?
Mhm.
The GM of that game is a player in the current Intrepid Heroes campaign we have now.
Very
So it's
nice.
Rob Helm who's playing Zero in our campaign. So
Yeah.
I actually reconnected with him before I started playing Starfinder again, and got involved in playing with him again. So that was kind of my first experience. And at the time, we went through some of the classic modules that were out
Mhm.
there, like the Expedition to the Barrier Peaks
Right, yeah.
and things like that. But we also did lots of homebrews based on whatever books we were reading. So like we would
Mhm.
it was almost like a book club. One person would get a book they would read and say, "Hey, this is cool," and everybody else would read it. And then whoever was the DM then would base a campaign around that book. And you'd go in there, and we'd homebrew all the characters and the monsters and things you'd encounter. And that was my experience with D&A. I thought was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, sounds fun. I mean, yeah. I my first jamming experience was trying to run 3rd edition D&D, and I did the whole probably messed the whole thing up. You know what I mean? It wasn't a
Oh,
great
I'm sure we
story.
messed it up a lot.
It was
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was all just sort of like just trying to like, I just want you guys to have fun. And then, just sort of getting more confident about stories that you want to tell, and the world you might be want to make up or not make up, as the case may be, if you're, using some pre-written stuff, which
Right.
eventually I sort of more sort of folded into, and sort of like, oh, I can take pre-written stuff and just kind of like plop it in a lot of
Right.
places. I
Right.
ended up
Right.
running a fairly long not I think it's called Arcana Unearthed, which was a different
Right.
not it was a Monty Cook thing, I think.
Right.
A long thing of that, and I was grabbing stuff out of dungeon, and just sort of like, okay, because it was, making it a kind of very
Right, right, right. Oh,
Episodic
yeah. I
kind of
remember
campaign.
when
Yeah,
Dungeon and Dragon magazine came out, and you could get things like that to add
yeah,
in. That was really
it was good
cool.
fun. Uh, I remember some like mountain temple with like yak people in it. I think it was like a higher level one, like 12th or 13th level something. It was interesting. That was one thing I just that sort of sticks into my mind. I couldn't tell you anything else about it. No.
Yeah, I don't have a lot that I remember, other than, I remember later on, so I didn't play through college and stuff, so we
Yeah.
played all through high school, right? I didn't play through college. I went to a military academy, that wasn't something we did. Then I was stationed on a small icebreaker in the Great Lakes, and we were in the shipyards in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, and there's literally, like, nothing in the winter in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin to do.
Makes sense.
And so one of the things that I started doing is I started running a D&D campaign for the crew.
Mm,
And so that was kind of neat. And it was a module, and I don't even remember what module it was. But there was a lighthouse that you could rent for weekends and stuff. Nobody wanted to be there, right, in the middle of the winter, but
right.
we were stuck on the ship if we didn't go anyplace. So we got like 10, we had a crew of 17, like 10 of us all went to this lighthouse.
Wow.
We just played a full weekend of this big, massive
Wow. Lovely.
D&D, kind of campaign going through it. And that's
Yeah.
like, that was like one of my most memorable things, running and I had to get all the books again. I had to get a
Hmm.
DM screen and teach people to do stuff and buy dice for people.
Wow.
And it was kind of it was an interesting thing. It was a little awkward for me because I was like second in command of the ship.
Hmm.
But for me, I viewed it as a morale thing because the only other option was to go to the one bar and drink all night.
All right. Sure.
And so I thought, we'll give people an option. They don't want to do that. We'll come out here and do that.
That's great. That sounds
So that
great.
was kind of my more memorable thing for that.
Yeah. Fun.
What about characters? What are some memorable or fun characters that you've played or are playing now even?
So one thing that springs to mind, again, this is sort of earlier on with that group that ran the vampire game. We eventually had this sort of we'd go back to this other system again that the GM kind of homebrewed, um, which was a sort of a haunted west kind of
Oh
system where
wow.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, the whole premise was like you could get there's like a lot of like basically like bad necromantic energy everywhere throughout the country, and if you got wounded, there was a chance you could start getting this sort of Lazarus infection, which would kind of slowly turn you undead. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
that. But it had a lot of mystical stuff too. So I made a character, and it was just possible to make a character that basically worshipped the devil. And I had like a familiar in the form of a little dog. That would come with me, and especially if anything happened to the dog, my soul was forfeit and all that kind of stuff. And he was just basically kind of this is like one of the early times, first times I would play someone who was evil, right?
Yeah.
He was just sort of just he was a I think his name was Colonel Atherton, and I got to do the whole oh Lord me, let's talk this out and figure things out. And then I had a dog, and then here's the thing, I messed it up because the dog was a in my head. I wanted the name of the dog Damocles because he was kind of like a sword of Damocles hanging over myself. But I
Right.
accidentally, I think when I was writing the character, said Damascus, so the dog was named
Oh,
Damascus. I didn't really didn't click with my into my brain for like halfway through, and I was like, yeah,
yeah.
that's fine, whatever. But like my favorite part of that is one point where like because I had magic, right, of being a sort of a devil worshiper, and one of the things I could do was astral project. And there's a one point I did a lot of like I didn't want to get into a fight because fights in that game were deadly. So I didn't have, and I wasn't super good at it. But I could curse people, I think. But there was a point where I was just sort of like there was a one of the other players was trying to like make a moral decision, I think, some decision, and I was like invisibly astrally like in his ear like, no, yeah, I think you should just kill him, just take your gun out and shoot him in the face, just trying to like tempt him
Wow.
to do some murders. So that was kind of fun to do. But eventually, gosh, I don't remember what happened. I think he, you know, the campaign ended, of course. We moved on to another one, but I don't think he met any ignominious end or anything like that, which is, I guess, a
Uh,
shame.
yeah. the same group that we started with. I remember later on in high school, they were again most of them were a year ahead of me. When they it was close to graduation, we were playing through some campaigns,
Mhm.
and we did a whole weekend thing, a game at. Well, we did a couple. And one of them was at this guy's house. His name was I remember his name because it's very unusual. His name was Byron and Lively is his
Oh,
name.
all right.
Called him Barney. It was Byron Heckin Lively, and he had we're out there, playing until late at night, and he had cows. Had a barn and horses and
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
And we'd heard this thing about cows sleep standing up, and you go push them over, cow tipping.
All right. Okay.
So we were around his fields trying to find a cow to tip over at 2 o'clock in the morning because none of us could sleep from the.
Yeah.
But then we weren't brave enough to go up to it and
Oh
try
well.
to push it over,
Thank you for not,
because
being cruel to an animal.
yeah. Yeah, I don't even know if that's true. The other thing I remember is he had horses, and man, there's this expression, "Piss like a racehorse,"
Oh.
and when they had to go to the bathroom, it was like, wow, that was crazy. Um, but in terms of characters and stuff, I remember another character I had a ranger, um, Eric Strongbow. So he's the longbow and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And I think Rangers had to be neutral aligned, and so Ranger was neutral good
Hmm.
for mine. But my stepbrother always played an assassin, right?
Hmm.
And
Okay.
assassins are evil,
Yeah, they had to be evil.
and he was always trying. He'd still hang out with us, but always kind of threatened to do something to us, or he's always lurking around.
Hmm.
And then we had this other guy who always played paladins. So everybody
Oh
kind of had iconic.
no.
This is what they always played.
Okay.
And yeah, and they would just get into it all the time because my stepbrother would go, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna go kill this village or whatever and take his money and stuff." Oh no, you can't do that. I'm gonna go after you. Well, now I'm gonna have to kill, and it get to almost like fisticuffs with it because my stepbrother was just trying to wind this guy up all the time because he was like, and the funny thing is, this guy who always played the paladin, what he does now for a living is he makes chainmail and armor and
Ah,
stuff for people that want to do uh, I can't,
um. Oh gosh, I know which
live
one.
play
Yeah, LARPing, right?
LARPs and
LARPs.
stuff.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like really high quality stuff, and it's like,
Nice.
wow, that just fits. This is exactly what he was all about before. Now that's kind of what he does for a living. So, and my brother's an assassin. No, no, he's
No, wait. Oh no.
not. Yeah. So, that's just something I kind of remember with that. Always kind of getting into it. Not my brother always playing that evil character, and I was kind of playing a good character, and then having to mitigate what's going on. And I can 100% see why now it's good not to have evil characters in your party because it just
Yeah, I
doesn't mix
mean,
really well.
you either got to go all in or just sort of be like, yeah. I mean, that's. I mean, again, that's the with the remaster getting rid of alignment, Starfinder eventually getting rid of alignment. It'd be
Yes,
good
you don't
to not
have
have to
that.
worry
You're
about that.
just good or bad. You're not
You're just whoever you
not
are,
born
right?
evil. Or,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You don't have to say
yes.
like, well, I'm playing an evil character. No, you
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
well, my character's edicts are to murder babies, and then you're like, okay, well, you're a bad guy.
So
um,
other campaigns. So those were D&D things, but we
yeah.
also played a lot of other TSR stuff. And
Hmm.
one of the ones I enjoyed a lot was actually Gamma World, and we did
Oh,
kind of the
fun.
same thing where we would find books or movies and things that we were really interested in, and
Hmm.
then kind of set what we were doing in that setting. And the one that really is vivid to me is we read this series of books called Bolo, and they were about these big super tanks.
Hmm.
And that's the thing that what our characters would do is we would find in some old abandoned facility these tanks and start building them up. And of course, there'd be some enemies out there that were doing them, and we'd have these big tank battles and stuff
Okay,
like that. And I
that's
always
pretty
thought that
cool.
was kind
Yeah, yeah. I think it seems funny that like mostly I run the sort of D&D Pathfinder games. I don't play them too often. But when I play is I end up playing like mysteries and
of,
westerns and other random nonsense because the group I have now,
yeah.
this one group I have now that is we frequently are constantly changing systems and DMs and campaigns and stuff like that. And though I have to say though, from that group, I think my favorite character is Nan, who is a grandma in sort of 1920s, 1930s Britain, where a group of bird watchers who accidentally solve mysteries a bunch, all right, in that classic sort of cozy mystery style.
Yeah.
And my character is basically like she's from the village. She's very old. She likes to drink, and the sort of like the power that I call on is she's got, if we need like someone to do something handy or whatever, or just sort of like anything, I think she's got a grandchild somewhere in the village that she knows. Oh, that's our Peter. He'll help us out or whatever. And
Yeah, yeah.
so she's really fun to play. She's basically Nanny Og from the Discworld books, if you're familiar with that.
Mhm.
You know, there's another sort of character. My friend is playing. She's sort of also an older woman, but more sort of posh. But oftentimes, like, well, oh, we're gonna go on a steak. Waffles and I are gonna go on a stakeout, and we just sit in like chairs and on the lawn and just drink the night. And just get constantly. Oh, we didn't notice anything. Of course, we were too busy getting drunk. But that's, you know, again, lots of fun.
Now, do you have you played much Starfinder? Do you have a favorite Starfinder character that you've played?
I don't know if I have played much Starfinder. I think the most of the Starfinder I've played is been with you, John, and the recent
You have to make more of it
Defy the
then.
Dragon. But got more. Yeah, I know. I gotta make some more memories. I have, you know, run it a couple times and run through the against the on throne and some you know
Mhm.
scenarios and whatnot. I can't. I feel like I have played Starfinder at least one other time, but I can't remember anything about it. So right now it's just sidestep.
That's your favorite.
Sidestep is my favorite. Yeah, he's my favorite. He's my favorite Starfinder character that I've played.
And what makes him so fun?
I know. I just like play the little guys, little furry guys. Sometimes being Yusoki, but I'm just sort of playing him a little New Yorky.
Yeah.
I hope that's kind of like. Hopefully, it's kind of clear. Like when I'm in his voice, it slips. Yeah, I slip it a little, but just a touch of like, hey, you know, we can forget about this. I got two guns, and I'm just going to shoot you in the face. Kind of, you know,
Oh, I thought that was just
Italian.
you. I didn't realize that.
No, no. I'm from New
Yeah.
Jersey. I have
Yes,
nothing to
obviously. What
do
accent? No.
with any kind of gangsters or anything like
Yeah.
that. With any sort of organized crime.
Interesting. Yeah, the reason why I was thinking about this, I'll tell you, is I was
Hmm.
editing
Yeah.
Intrepid Heroes episode that actually comes out tomorrow. So tomorrow's Monday, today's Sunday. Comes out every other Monday. And the thing is, we stopped recording those like a year ago. So I haven't
Wow.
actually, it was like a year since I played this character.
Okay.
And I'm listening to this character that I have in there is Leroy, who is my Dragonkin Vanguard.
Hmm.
And I think in this episode, he's 18. He actually just turns 19th level.
Well, happy
And so it's
birthday.
pretty high level. And
No,
I was thinking, man,
level.
I really loved playing Leroy at high level, the Vanguard.
Hmm.
And because in this particular episode, I was editing. One of the things that the Vanguard has is this ability to like slam their hands together or slam the ground. I don't remember which of them. And then just kind of do this area effect damage to everybody. Right. So
Hmm.
taking their entropic strike and
Yeah,
apply
yeah,
it
yeah.
as an area effect. And it's like, oh, this is so cool. Cause I always remember like, in the comic books, Thor taking his hammer and just smashing the ground,
Ground, yeah.
and having this shockwave go out and everywhere. And that's kind of what I'm picturing with him. But overall, he's just a lot of fun. He can do a lot of things. But all battle related stuff. So
Sure.
if
Yeah.
you're into a fight or mitigating damage for your team, it's like, man, a high level Vanguard is like that to me. That was like that's my go to. That is like so much fun.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Same with. I mean, same with sidestepping. I don't really do much outside of a fight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Outside of a
My
fight,
soldier is
yeah, out
built,
of
but
luck.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't got any skills. You know, basically, maybe I think I took a little bit of intimidation, so I could be intimidating, but
yeah. That's
that's
the
about it.
tough thing for combatants.
Yeah.
Soldiers and Vanguards,
Yeah. Yeah.
Solarians.
Yeah.
They're tough. No, my very first Starfinder character was an operative, and so I had the complete opposite
Sure, yeah. Too many
experience.
skills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so much
You can't
stuff,
hold
and
them all.
well, when to the point we went through the Dead Sons campaign,
Mm-hmm.
and it got to the point where I had to stop trying to do stuff because it, in order to give other people a chance,
Sure, yeah. Yeah, no,
right?
I
To
get it.
make skill checks and things because my operative's edge and high intelligence and high dex, I could do lots of things. Nothing
Yeah.
mystical, but
Yeah, right. Fair. Well,
you do a lot of stuff.
hopefully we can sort of like smooth that out a little bit with second edition.
Oh,
And find
you think that'll happen?
um well, I mean, the way that the chassis works, right, is
Yeah,
that you're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
have soldiers who can have a little more skills and do some stuff outside of combat. You can do things with like athletics and that kind of stuff
Right, right,
outside of combat with more skill feats, and then you've got probably operative won't be as you know probably maybe you've got like the rogue and the bard and whatnot, sort of
right,
those that high skill cap kind of characters, and probably getting more skill feats, and it'll just be more of a breadth of things instead of a just pluses on the dice, to the roll.
right, 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 right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Especially at high levels, they get really skewed
yeah.
the skills. I mean, I've in our Dawn of Flame campaign, I had operative that was at 20th level because we had Jason
Mm-hmm.
Tondro run the last book, so I ran a 20th level operative,
Great.
and I was capped out on everything except for mysticism and one other skill. Everything
Yeah,
else I had max ranks in it, so it's just a
amazing.
lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
It could be a lot.
So but anyway, yeah, I just thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about. We definitely have to get you playing more. One of the things I was thinking of is that and I think I actually mentioned this last week too, or last episode. I'm really excited for the Scoured Stars adventure path.
Hmm. Yeah.
I saw that was announced here coming out. How it ties together 12 adventures in a more coherent whole and one hardback. Because I don't think you have gone through. You've written some for it, but you haven't played through the whole thing.
I don't think I've written anything specifically for Scoured Stars.
Yeah,
I don't think
I know
any of
you
the
wrote some season one stuff. That's all. I don't
yeah, I
know.
don't think there was
Oh yeah,
anything
yeah,
that
yeah. Those weren't.
that
Yeah, because you did it with
yeah, the beetle
the
people.
Beetle people. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The Giovanni,
Yeah.
right? You did those, and I know Ron hasn't either. And so I thought, oh,
Mhm.
this would be a great way to introduce you all to what's really a fun story arc. So we
I
might
mean,
have to,
I don't doubt it.
yeah,
I thought she was very, excited to bring those into sort of a compiled version that one could get to a
yeah.
sort of a even wider audience, which is going to be cool.
Well, and the interesting thing about the Scoured Stars, that first season, the first season of organized play, which is where it comes from, was a
Yeah.
lot longer than all the other seasons. So there's
Right. It
just a
was like
whole
a
lot
year
more.
and a half or something, at least a year and
Yeah,
a
I
half
think it
long.
went up to 39 scenarios. It was a crazy number
Yeah. Yeah.
compared to
I remember that.
yeah. And so it's like, wow, so there's a lot in there across a bunch of levels and things. And I enjoyed that story arc because it was lengthy and tied together. They've had some other story arcs in organized play which tie together things, but
Mhm.
not they don't seem to carry through as tightly as that one does. That's
Okay.
or as long as that one is probably.
Well, yeah, that one had the advantage of just being longer.
Yeah, and then it culminated in a multi-table special,
Hmm.
which I ran at Gen Con at that highest level, which was for me my first time at Gen Con and
Oh,
doing that. That was my first special. I multi-table special I ran. That was all like a lot of fun for me.
wow, cool.
So I
I
just
am
have really fond
curious.
memories.
Yeah, I'm curious of how much that is presented in the book, right? In the
I know.
compiled adventures, if there's
Me
going to
too.
be
I
a weird
can't
sort of
wait to
multiplayer.
see.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it too.
Anyway, this is a walk down memory lane here during our
Yes.
festive season.
Yeah, as the year comes to a close, you can't help but look back at all of the things you've done this year and in previous years. It's a time for reminiscing. It's a time for the ghosts of Christmas past, and um, that's what we just did.
Yes, and Hanukkah loops too. You gotta remember those.
And you got to don't yeah. If you spin that magic dreidel, you got to be careful. You have to repeat this day over and over again. But then again, eating latkes every day with no consequences.
True, true, true.
I can
Actually,
go for that.
a lot of stuff, no consequences. Maybe I don't know.
Well, yeah, of course, but specifically eating the
Yes,
latkes,
yes.
right?
Well, I'm John.
And I'm Jason, and this has been Digital Divination.